ladies and gentlemen, this is Carmine Sabia for Explain America, and it looks like Trump's tariffs are already working. Before we get started, please make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Those little things really help us out, and they help our channel continue to grow. And if you're not watching us on YouTube, please check that address in the lower right-hand corner. It's youtube.com/@ExplainAmerica. And when you get there, please hit subscribe absolutely free. It really helps us out. You know, there's been a lot of gloom and doom and a lot of naysayers about Trump's tariffs. I have said time and again, I'm not an economist. I don't know. But what I do know is that the United States, and this has been agreed upon on pretty much all sides here, the United States has been getting taken advantage of by the rest of the world for decades. Left, right, economists are saying this on all sides of the aisle. So, as you guys know, one thing I try to do is I try to listen to experts on both sides so I can get kind of a feel for what's going on, because I'm not going to just come on here and give you the rosiest approach. I want to try and tell you the truth. So, again, don't know a lot about tariffs, but I do know, I think these should have been more tailored and targeted, but I do know they're already starting to work. How do I know that? Because over 50 countries have already come to the table trying to make deals. And the UK Prime Minister tomorrow is going to say that Trump is right and globalization has failed. Trump is changing the world order, and that's what he wanted to do. I want you to listen to this report and let me know what you think in the comments.
Operations back to the U.S. is unrealistic, George.
Okay, Britt, thanks. Let's talk now to the president's top economic advisor, Kevin Hassett. Mr. Hassett, thank you for joining us this morning. You know, the president promised all through the campaign that prices would come down right away, said they'd come down right away. Now he's saying, hang tough, it won't be easy. How high are prices going to go? How long will they stay there?
I actually saw it in this story that you just gave, George. There's kind of like a logical disconnect between the stories, the competing stories that your team is using to attack President Trump. On the one hand, you're saying that the countries are really angry and they're going to have to retaliate. On the other hand, you're saying that consumers are going to bear the costs and it's going to drive inflation up. But if U.S. consumers are bearing the costs, there's no reason for the countries to be angry. So the fact is the countries are angry and retaliating. And, by the way, coming to the table, I got a report from the USTR last night that more than 50 countries have reached out to the president to begin a negotiation. But they're doing that because they understand that they bear a lot of the tariff. And so I don't think that you're going to see a big effect on the consumer in the U.S. because I do think that the reason why we have a persistent long-run trade deficit is these people have very inelastic supply. They've been dumping goods into the country in order to create jobs, say, in China. And, George, also, I promise you I'll answer your questions directly and not filibuster, so I'll stop with that.
Well, what do you base where do you base your conclusion that you're not going to see an increase in prices? Just about every economist who's looked at this said you are going to see an increase in prices, including Goldman Sachs, including J.P. Morgan, including the chairman of the Federal Reserve.
Well, there might be some increase in prices, but the fact is that if there were going to be a heavy burden on the U.S. consumer, then this trade deficit that for 30 years we've seen, really since China entered the WTO, would be something that would have gone down. It would have gone down over time. It would have responded to the prices. The bottom line is that China entered the WTO in 2000. In the 15 years that followed, real incomes declined about $1,200 cumulatively over that time. And so if cheap goods were the answer, if cheap goods were going to make Americans' real wages, real welfare better off, then real incomes would have gone up over that time. Instead, they went down because wages went down more than prices went down. So we got the cheap goods at the grocery store, but then we had fewer jobs. And that's why President Obama and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and President Trump have come out saying we've got to come up with a better policy, a policy that treats our workers fairly compared to everybody else. And now President Trump, true to his word, just like he promised during the campaign, just like he put into his campaign platform, he's delivering on his word.
Right, but he also said prices were going to come down, and you just conceded the prices are going to go up. Also,